Hi, can you hear me okay? Is that sound good? Thank you. Hello. I was backstage for the first half of this TED thing, the first section of it, which it was fantastic, although I couldn't see any of them. I could only kind of hear them. They all had scrappy bits of paper in their hands, right? It's not just me. Okay, that's good. All right. Just light in here, right? Yes, my name is Ross, I'm a writer. I mostly write poetry, and I guess what I kind of wanted to talk to you today was about like my love for poetry, but also maybe specifically how experimenting with figurative language is going to change the way that I shape the world. And funny enough, I might actually dovetail in with the first talk we heard in this section as well. I'm going to take a bit of a run up at it though, and I'm going to start by talking about dreams. I myself had a bad one recently. I'll share it with you. I had it started off. I took a phone call from my dad, and then that caused an earthquake. As a result of the earthquake, I had to hide in the stalls of a performance of Mamma Mia at the Edinburgh Theatre. And that was a dream anyway. It was terrifying at the time. So I shot through all this anxiety and fear. Obviously now the performance, like looking back at it, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But when I was in it, in the moment, like everything seemed to make sense. But of course we're hiding in Mamma Mia. It's just that's the thing about dreams, isn't it? Is that they only make sense when you're in the moment. How can it be that something that doesn't make sense can move us on such a deep emotional level? Like, I think that's an interesting question, and I want to try and get into it a bit, because dream logic, right, as far as I understand it, like it's not rational. Dreams aren't bound by the conventional rules of narrative. It seems to me more like the dreams actually work more on the principles of montage. Now you're familiar with montage, small pieces of film edited together to create meaning. Here's a woman, she's being pampered in a salon. Now here's another woman. Now these two pieces of film were cut next to each other in Dziga Vertov's film Man with a Movie Camera, to get placed side by side. Now individually, on their own, they only tell us like part of the story, but when kind of placed side by side, even though there's no sound and there's no story, slowly we begin to see the differences between these two women, or they become more pronounced. We see that one is rich, one is poor. It starts to make us think about questions of class and privilege. And none of this is actually contained within the video, it's contained in that moment in between the video. Something emerges from a montage. Ideas come out of the cut. Montage talks to our brains in a deeply influential way. Why? Because I think that it speaks the language of our dreams, and I think that poetry does this too, and I think that the spiritual teaching does this, and I think sadly politics does this as well, and sadly increasingly so does the news. They create influence not through the logical progression of an argument, but through the dreamlike power of montage. It might even have happened here at TED once or twice. So that brings me to my talk today. I want to show you guys a first-hand example of the persuasive power of dream logic. This might not work. It's an experiment. I've never ever done it before. Okay, but in order for it to work, I need a small thing from you guys. If it's all right, just by a show of hands, if you can put up your hand if you have a dream or a nightmare that you can remember. It might have been something that you had like 20 years ago, or maybe something you had last night. Okay, so there's a few people with heads up. Okay, that's okay. Now, is it okay if you can keep your hands up? Keep your hands up if you think you could sum up that dream in like a single image. If you could kind of go like, okay, but this thing, this object is at the centre of it. It's It's a bat with my dad's face, whatever. Oh, that lady sent a bat then. Do you mind telling us what you guessed you? Is that telling us what your dream was?
Yeah, I remember a giant black fish chasing me on the ground.
A giant black fish that walks?
Yeah, no, it's just like a big tank or something, but looked like a fish chasing me on the playground.
A fish chasing you on the playground? Is that right? Is that right? A fish that can chase you across the playground? Alright, hang on. Okay, hopefully this isn't going to feed back if I come over here. Alright, Madeline, do you know what that means? What that symbol means, not just to you personally, but, on a global level, what a fish that chases you around the... Oh, God, this is a mess. Fine, I'll do. Right. Have you given any thought to what a fish that follows you across the playground might mean? It's okay if you haven't, because don't worry, I've just written a TED talk on it. It's coincidence. Alright, so I'm just going to come back over, give me a round of applause, and I'll do a TED talk on it. Alright, so I'm going to... Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, my name is Ross Sutherland, and I'm here to talk to you today about something that affects us all, something that we already participate in. Perhaps you don't fully understand. Yes, I'm talking, of course, about a fish that follows us across the playground. Fish that follow us across the playground is one of our country's greatest assets, isn't it? Fish that follow us across playgrounds, they appear in our entertainment, don't they? They also appear in our art, they even appear in politics. The question is, could there be a better symbol for Britain today, in this day and age, than a fish following us across the playground? It's become a perfect metaphor for the way we live our lives, hasn't it? Second job to cover the mortgage. Well, we can do this. Just treat each new day as a fish following us across the playground. Looking online for that special someone, no problem. There's a sexy young fish following us across the playground, almost certainly. The symbol of the fish crossing playground now is subliminally present in almost every aspect of modern culture. This is a radical new ideology that in only a few years has been adopted by an entire society. Politicians now view us not as a collective society, nor as individuals, but as a fish. Playground. Productivity has never been so good. Look, green. Can't argue with that. What else? With national treasure Kerry Katona in Closer magazine last year say, and I quote directly here, "If I found my significant other in bed with a fish that had just crossed the playground, I would not count it as cheating." Why would Grace and Perry decide to include in every single one of their artworks a very small picture of a fish crossing a playground like some kind of spooky signature, fast becoming the bat signal for modern art? Professor Stephen Hawking recently gave a talk in London, just 20 minutes from here, at the Royal Astronomical Society, during which he suggested that the shape of the universe may in fact be the shape of a fish. It's difficult to imagine, isn't it? But just remember, that's how you always feel whenever anybody paraphrases Stephen Hawking to you. So just accept it and move on. Right, okay, moving on. Actually, right, great. Right, here we can see the number of times politicians mentioned fish crossing playgrounds in speeches over the last 15 years. Compare that to other political footballs, such as trying to mend a roof in the middle of a storm, a laughing skull, spitting sherbet into your eyes, or giving birth to a canary. And I think you'll agree that fish and playgrounds are certainly hot-button issues. Now, of course, not everybody relates to fish crossing playgrounds like we do. Some people like to trivialise it. Some people, just because they've heard it mentioned in a pop song, are going to automatically dismiss it. And that's sad. Here's just some of the negative phrases that get associated with it. Waste of public money, that's right. Okay, well, many people strongly believe that the government shouldn't be investing millions of pounds in a fish crossing playground. They'd much rather have the money spent on health and education, and I agree. Like David Cameron's pledge now to put a fish crossing a playground into every school in Britain now feels like a bit of a misstep. It made sense at the time, but times change. So fair enough, that plan needs a rethink. Funnier on TV, most people, we said, found that a fish crossing a playground is hilarious when seen on Mrs. Brown's Boys, but considerably less so when experienced in real life. I think that just goes to show how fickle people are. I call that a double standard. There's no denying the compelling sensuousness of a fish crossing a playground. That makes as strong today as it ever has. But personally, I wouldn't use the word upsetting, I would just say the word unconventional. Now, I think that this poll suggests that we might be at a tipping point. Currently, fish crossing playgrounds, they might feel aspirational. In a few years' time, I suspect it's going to become shorthand for decadence. Now, this symbol is becoming increasingly misrepresented, particularly by conspiracy theorists who are confusing figurative language with literal fact. You know, and David Icke, in his 2011 book, Children of the Matrix, claims that there are, in fact, real fish crossing playgrounds, hiding in plain sight in schools all over the world. A brotherhood of 20 fish all crossing the playgrounds. They're planning to enslave mankind within the next 7 to 10 years. One fish living inside the vault of the Santa Susanna, one even posing as Prince Charles. Is this true? No, of course it's not true. That's hysteria. The metaphor here has come loose. It's lost its way. I promise you, there are no real fish crossing playgrounds. That's just a turn of phrase. It's just an idea. When Bruce Springsteen sang "I'm on fire," was he actually on fire? No, he wasn't on fire, yet it moved us all the same. Well, it's the same here. Instead, look, if you really want closure, if you want to know what we can really learn from this symbol, then what you need to do is go back to the start. You've got to remember where this all comes from in the first place. You've got to go back to this guy, Ivan Moshiokina, the first person to ever imagine a fish crossing a playground, way back in 1910. This is the footage right here, documenting the exact moment that Moshiokina came up with the concept of a fish crossing a playground. Moshiokina just came to turn on the camera that day to do a little dance for his nephew's 18th birthday, when all of a sudden the image of a fish crossing a playground just began to slowly coalesce in his mind like fog on a school roof. Look, you can almost see him beginning to imagine it right here in front of our eyes, the image forming in his head. There it is, and there we are, he sees it. Now, yeah, it's going to take Moshiokina 13 years to get planning permission to build a huge bronze statue of a fish crossing a playground in the middle of Red Square. A statue that's eventually going to become the symbol of a Decemberist revolt. Then later it's going to reappear in German magic realism in the 1960s before eventually reaching our shores in the 1990s, where it's going to appear on a dress worn by Jerry Halliwell on Top of the Pops Christmas special. You see, this is an image that's going to be used by so many people over the course of the next 100 years. Thousands of people who are searching for a metaphor are going to find it and they're going to use it. Like, what a gift to be able to bring a brand new image into the world. Like, it's going to help shape ideas. But right now, back at the start, in this moment here, like, it's just an image. The same type of image that you and I, we wake up with all the time in our heads. Moshiokina, he's going to write down the words in this journal. And those are going to be the first time in any language that those words appear in that order. In a minute, he's going to leave his house. He's going to follow it east along the Moskva River, his breath catching itself in the air. And then, finding himself in a rare moment of silence, he's going to look up and he's going to see the moon, the pink moon, looking back at him like a fish crossing a playground. And then half an hour later, he's going to be sitting in a cafe, he's going to order some soup, and there in the corner, he's going to spot a woman so beautiful that his heart is going to break, as if his heart was being attacked by a fish that had just crossed the playground. You see, that's the beautiful thing about symbols. They never mean the same thing twice. And even, right, if I admit it that this TED Talk has been mostly gibberish, stock phrases montaged together to give the illusion of meaning, I think this is the one thing that I feel to be genuinely true. In spite of our best efforts to be logical, rational creatures, a metaphor remains an incredibly powerful thing. And I think that's what attracted me to first writing poetry. It's the alchemy of symbols, the elasticity of language itself. Things that don't make sense suddenly start to make sense. It's a distant sense, but it's still there. We find ourselves suddenly understanding a language that we didn't even know that we spoke. You can almost say it's a language that we learned whilst we were asleep. Thanks for listening to me.